much for spending your very precious time with us again, sharing with treasures, giving us knowledge, empowering all of us around the world. Thank you so much, Dr. Bob, and welcome.
Well, there we go. Little technical hiccup there for a second. Happy, beautiful evening, all. Thank you, Diane, for the wonderful welcome. You know, I like to tell people that my passion in life is health and sharing health and helping people to become their best self. So I've had 28 and a half wonderful years in clinical practice with many more to go, and I have a lot of experience with patients. Tonight, we're going to focus on the immune system because that is a major topic in our world. As we go through, if you have questions, please feel free to type them. After we get through, I will look at the questions, we'll answer questions, and we'll even have time for live questions. But my goal is to get through the science part of this in about 20 minutes. So first and foremost, I think most of us know that we have an immune system, and when our immune system is in balance, we have wonderful health. But there's a few ways that our immune system can go out of balance. Either we don't have enough defense in a certain way, or we have too much attack. So if we don't have enough defense from things that happen on the outside, well, we can get sick. That could be a cold, that could be a flu, that could be a novel virus. If we don't have enough defense on the inside, well, believe it or not, that leads to cancer. And science suggests that nearly everybody develops many cancer cells every single day. So as one of my mentors said, the question is not, do you have cancer? The question is, are you cancering? And we'll address immune strategies that can even help us with that. If there's too much attack on things from the outside, that's what we call an allergy. If there's too much attack on things happening on the inside, that's autoimmunity. And the sad reality is our world is experiencing way too much of all these things. One of my specialties is nutrition. I just did a simple PubMed search, and you'll see that there are over 27,000 studies on nutrition and the immune system, going all the way back to 1910. So that's about the origin of the medical literature. And even if you look at nutrition and virus protection, there's over 1,000 studies on that topic. So I promise you that nutrition is very, very important today and every day. I'm going to have a little bit of a slant on autoimmune disease because this is something that seems to be taking over the world. So this quote here is from NIH.gov, the National Institutes of Health. And notice that it says a healthy immune system defends the body, but it says when the immune system malfunctions, it mistakenly attacks healthy cells, tissues, and organs. And that can be even life-threatening. Now that's the medical model. We're actually going to look at it a little differently from the natural model. Right now, literally every single day, it seems that they're adding more and more autoimmune diseases. The vast majority of these are in women, and we'll address why that is the case. When you look at the autoimmune market for 2020, $4.1 billion is just the market for autoimmune diagnoses. So now what do they do once they figure it out? Well, the sad reality is not much. Medicine doesn't have much to answer, but there's a solid piece of evidence that there's been a steady rise in autoimmune disease. And notice it says throughout westernized societies. So there's countries in the world that are not westernized that haven't had this rise in autoimmunity. And we might want to look and see what they are doing different. This is a case that's very, very sad that I often share as an example. So this young lady, her name is Sasha McHale, and she was the daughter of a basketball Hall of Famer named Kevin McHale. And the sad reality is that she died. Notice what the article said of lupus-related complications. Now, after she died, believe it or not, a family member came into my office and wanted, evaluation and treatment for autoimmune disease. And I said, by the way, what the heck happened with Sasha? And they said, well, they gave her so many immunosuppressive drugs that she actually got pneumonia and died. So I want you to think about the medical model of immunosuppression and look at what's going on in the world and think if you think that that is a good idea to have some level of immune suppression. This is a TED Talk, and this is a drug representative. And basically, he was showing a picture of the pancreas. And there's a cell of the pancreas that makes insulin, and that's called the beta cell. And then here he shows what he calls an abnormal beta cell, and he says that cell actually triggers an autoimmune attack. Well, then they wanted to create drugs that would prevent that autoimmune attack. Interesting TED Talk, but I actually thought our immune system was designed to take out bad and abnormal cells. So if our immune system is designed to protect us, what are some reasons that it may not actually work that way? This is a quote from New England Journal of Medicine. It says that autoimmune reactivity or attack against our own body is absolutely normal. Our bodies are made of over 50 trillion cells. I mentioned in the intro that some cells become cancerous every day. We want our immune system on guard to take out abnormal cells, sick cells, and that is the equivalent of weeding the garden. So what's causing the problem out there? So here's a picture of a Marine that was serving, the US overseas, and he suffered a very severe injury and burning. And the way I teach autoimmunity to my patients is I ask the question, if you're guarding the military base and the gentleman on the left shows up, do you let him on the base? Well, if you recognize him, you know him, of course you do. But what if the guy on the right shows up? Even his own mother wouldn't recognize him. As the guard, would you let him on the base? And the answer is no. So your immune system, when it recognizes your cells, it says, okay, you're fine. But if it doesn't, it actually attacks them. So here's the medical study. It says there is a relationship between cell injury and autoimmune disease. And that injury can be a toxic injury. It can be an infectious injury. It can even be a traumatic injury. And so what we want to do is figure out how we can prevent those issues or even reverse them if we have them. So this was a study that was published in the Archives of Internal Medicine entitled The Deadly Quartet. And in the medical model, they said, if you were obese and you had high blood pressure and prediabetes and bad blood lipids like high cholesterol, then you were going to die early. But I wrote an article that was a rebuttal to that a few decades later. And I said, this is what I think is really the deadly quartet: stress, toxins, malnutrition, and physical inactivity. And it's these things that actually precede obesity, high blood pressure, prediabetes, and even an unhealthy immune balance. So here's our first reference that stress does weaken the immune system. If you go out throughout your lifetime, you probably realize that it's times when you were stressed, when you weren't taking care of yourself, when you weren't getting good sleep, that you got run down and you got sick. Stress is overall a suppressant to the immune system, and that is one of the major factors of cancer. On some of our Total Wellness Tuesdays, we'll dive into the cancer topic in depth, because sadly, our world is being taken over by a cancer pandemic. So when you look at cancer and the immune system, there literally are over 200,000 studies suggesting immune challenges are a strong trigger to cancer. So there are also 28,000 studies that show that nutrition is good for the immune system. So we might think that nutrition could be good at preventing cancer, and it absolutely is. Here's a medical study that shows that stress is linked to autoimmune diseases. In fact, when people suffered a major stressor or even witnessed a major stressor and were diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, they were 36% more likely within the next year to develop some type of autoimmune disease. So part of my immune strategy, and I'll tell you more of it later, is a superfood strategy. Arguably one of the top superfoods on the planet is Ganoderma lucidum, which is really good for stress. It calms the body, the mind, and the spirit. This is a reference from the World Health Organization where they talk about the impact of global toxins. And quite simply, they say that toxins are responsible for 1/4 of all health challenges on the planet. There are over 80,000 registered toxic chemicals in the environment. Every single person walking around is proven to have at least 700 toxins in their system at all times. a very sad study showed that all newborn infants are exposed to more than 200 toxins through umbilical cord blood before they take their first breath. So the takeaway here is we want to protect our children. We want to protect our moms-to-be. We want to get them really clean diets and even detoxification strategies. Back to Ganoderma. So Ganoderma is proven to help the body clear some of the worst toxins in the history of the planet. It protects the brain from a drug that's used to induce Parkinson's. It protects the liver from a drug that's used to induce liver sclerosis and failure. It protects the pancreas from a drug that kills the cells of the pancreas that makes insulin. And it protects babies' developing brain and spinal cord from things that are known to damage that in utero. And it's also super safe in pregnancy. We mentioned that women have a predominance of autoimmune disease, and here's the reason why. Estrogens actually promote autoimmunity, whereas androgens protect against autoimmunity. When we look at toxins in the environment, one of the top toxins in nearly everybody is something called bisphenol A, which has estrogen activity, and that in and of itself has been proven to be an autoimmune trigger. So there are estrogens in plastics, estrogens in pesticides, estrogens injected into animals. One of my mentors said nearly 30 years ago, we are swimming in a sea of estrogens, and it's gotten much worse since then. So great news, Ganoderma is actually proven to detoxify these horrible estrogens. The vast majority of our immune system is around our gut. That makes sense. If we're going to get a bug or something in our system, it's probable that we would either swallow it or possibly breathe it in. So there's a good portion of the immune system along the respiratory passageways as well. But if we have damage to our gut that allows things in our gut to get into our system before they're digested, we call that leaky gut. That is known to be a trigger of inflammatory process and even autoimmune disease. There's a condition called sepsis, and this is where bacteria get into the bloodstream. Sepsis is responsible for 215,000 deaths every single year in the US, with a medical cost of nearly $17 billion. So pretty interesting medical study. They gave rats a drug that would actually burn holes in their gut and create sepsis. And literally the animals would die without severe intervention. But when they gave them Ganoderma and the drug at the same time, sepsis did not occur. We know that autoimmune processes happen when there's a bad balance of bugs within the gut. And the sad reality is most people out there actually are exposed to antibiotics on a regular basis. Why? Because antibiotics are consistently injected into animals. So if you're eating animal products that aren't 100% organic, there's a strong chance you're getting antibiotics. And even if you are eating organic, they're throughout even our food system, and plants take up antibiotics as well as animals. One of the top topics in medicine right now is the microbiome. That's the bugs within our gut. And we know that the wrong bugs in our gut actually can trigger autoimmune disease. Our diet has a huge effect on the bugs in our gut. Two of the main offenders are actually gluten and dairy products. So we often recommend that people eliminate those, but the right diet can make the gut better, as can the right supplementation. Pretty interesting study. They've actually found out that the wrong balance of bugs in your gut helps you to get more calories out of your food. Now, human beings do not digest fiber, but the wrong bugs do. And when they eat the fiber, they convert it into fatty acids, which actually can cause diabetes and obesity. While we're on the topic of toxins, vaccines are also known to induce autoimmunity. In my clinical practice, I've treated a number of military people that had medical discharge because they developed severe autoimmunity after the number of vaccines that were given to military people. So I always encourage people, you want to make an informed choice about everything that you do, and especially if you're a parent, check into anything that's being suggested to inject into your children. Malnutrition is a global problem, and the Global Nutrition Report says that it's dominant in every country on planet Earth. I tell people that the great news is we have fewer and fewer children starving, but we actually have an adult population that is full of calories but starving for nutrients. Our food has less and less in it than it did before. Since the body doesn't get the nutrition that it needs, it's constantly hungry. And by being constantly hungry, it constantly eats and ultimately becomes obese. And we literally know that this is a global pandemic. One of the challenges with obesity is that it also causes problems with the immune system. Literally, obesity is the #2 risk factor for cancer. It is a top risk factor for autoimmunity. It's also a very high comorbidity in people that are dying from the current virus that is out there. So we talked about stress, toxins, malnutrition, and physical inactivity. We know that physical activity can lean you out. That can ultimately improve your immune system function, but it's also proven to reduce autoimmune disease. A few nutrition tips. I was lecturing in Orlando, Florida, when a researcher by the name of Barry Sears put a picture up at the time of the USDA food pyramid. And his statement was, if ever there was a terrorist-like plot designed to destroy the health of the world, this would be it. And he put up the USDA food pyramid. So complete nutrition, start with nature's foods. I love the quote, if God made it, it's okay. If man made it, don't touch it. Superfoods have all the nutrition and special factors that make them wonderful in our diet. My favorite superfood, Ganoderma. Medical foods are generally protein shakes with a specific health benefit. They also have a multivitamin within it. I recommend omega-3s, probiotics, and a combination of vitamin D3, K2. On another session, we may go just into the comprehensive basics of nutrition. But while we were focusing on autoimmunity, the medical literature shows that these 4 things are universal immune modulators. Vitamin D, which is a global deficiency. DHEA, which is an adrenal molecule depleted by chronic stress. Ganoderma, a superfood, and perilla seed, another plant from Asia that has profound immune balancing benefits. So I definitely recommend these 4 for anybody dealing with any type of autoimmune circumstance. And reality is, as immune modulators, they can also help with every other aspect of immunity. We're going to have this as a regular event on Tuesdays. I like to call it Total Wellness Tuesdays. But now, if we can, let's just take a moment and see if there were any questions that came up in the chat. And Carol, did you happen to be watching or screening, or Vanita, or anybody?
No questions. Lots of people that are happy that you're talking.
Hey, all right. Then we may just go with a raise of hands. If anybody, is that Claudio?
Oh my God, I almost.
So Claudio, I just unmuted you. Go for it, buddy.
Hi there.
Happy beautiful evening.
Happy beautiful evening to you as well, and everybody else on the group. I had a question with someone actually with hair loss. If you can just maybe, if you're the almighty, so.
I'm going to assume it's female pattern hair loss, which by the way is becoming pandemic. So I get that question so often. So I'll tell you there are 4 known and relatively common causes of female pattern baldness. Number 1 is actually thyroid dysfunction, which by the way, most thyroid dysfunction falls in the category of autoimmunity. Number 2 is actually protein malnutrition. So hair is a protein. If you don't have enough protein, your body can actually begin to eliminate it. Number 3 is actually insulin resistance. And that actually may be number 2, because insulin resistance in the female actually shunts ovarian hormone production to androgens or male hormones, and male hormones promote baldness even in women. And then the 4th is autoimmunity, which is called alopecia. And up until about 5 years ago, I had a patient come in with alopecia, and I asked him, I said, what's your goal? He said, well, I'd like to get my hair back. And 5 years ago, I said, well, I've never seen that happen. But guess what? We put him on an autoimmune protocol, and this young man did get his hair back. So it's possible, right? Anything's possible. And on that beautiful day, and so far, by the way, that's just one case that I've had that's done that. But just like when Roger Bannister ran the 4-minute mile, you know, it opened the doors for others. So I'm confident that in the future, we'll get more people where we push just the right buttons to get their hair back. But thyroid, protein, insulin, and autoimmune, those are the 4 causes.
Awesome. Always appreciate you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Dr. Bob, we do have a question in the chat now.
Yep.
Can Ganoderma help with blood clots and muscle spasms?
Let's address those things separately. So first and foremost, I'll quote the medical literature. Ganoderma has something in it called a fibrinolytic protease. That, by the way, prevents blood clots. And so there was a rat study, and maybe we'll do a cardiovascular. Maybe that'll be next week or a few weeks. But they gave rats a clotting agent called kynic acid where they could induce heart attack and stroke in 100% of the animals. They then said, okay, what can we do to prevent a heart attack or stroke with this clotting agent? And one of the agents they studied was Ganoderma. And they found that Ganoderma at a dose of 60 micrograms per kilogram body weight would completely prevent heart attack or stroke from this very powerful clotting agent. So for me, I'm the fairly classic 70 kilogram male that you'll see in the textbooks. 2 cups of black coffee a day would prevent heart attack or stroke in me with the most profound clotting agent known to man. They also compared it to aspirin, and aspirin at 10 to 20 milligrams per kilogram body weight would have the same prevention. But here's the deal. If I were to my body weight, I would have to have 9 baby aspirin a day to prevent that. What would happen to me at 9 baby aspirin a day? My gut would bleed out within 2 weeks and I would die. So Ganoderma is powerful. It doesn't have the side effects, and it is proven as an anti-clotting agent. And let's take it a step further. When people take blood thinners, medical blood thinners, here's what I tell people blood thinners are known to do. They prevent normal clotting, and they promote abnormal bleeding. What does Ganoderma do? It prevents abnormal clotting, it prevents abnormal bleeding and promotes normal clotting. So you don't want to stop your clotting. I have a case on my Facebook page where there was a gentleman that had a traumatic brain injury so bad that they called his family in, and he told his kids, you know, say goodbye to your father. He's not going to live through the evening. Well, 21 days later, Michael Morris said he felt good enough to jog home from the hospital. They didn't think he'd ever leave. Secondly, they didn't think he'd ever get his mental capacity back. But by the end of the year, 2019, his accident was in May of 2019. He finished number 3 as a banker in one of the top financial institutions in the world. So, and he had plenty of Ganoderma on board. So here's the point. It prevents abnormal clotting without promoting abnormal bleeding. That has huge implications for heart attack and stroke. Other questions?
Okay, we have, can Ganoderma help with parasites?
With parasites. So here's right from the medical literature. There are 430 unique molecules in Ganoderma. In that particular study, it probably identified more, 79 of which have antimicrobial action, including anti-yeast, anti-parasite, anti-fungus, antiviral. Ganoderma is proven to block replication of even the HIV virus. It can eradicate HPV. It can eradicate H1N1. And by the way, the 1918 flu pandemic was actually an H1N1 flu. So I want you to think about that. When it came around in whatever year it did, 2008, 2009, that created a horrible flu pandemic scare. But it turned out to be nothing because of the advances we've made in modern science. Some might even argue that maybe this one that we're dealing with now has been dramatically overblown. Here's what I know. I know about 17,000 people around the world that are regular consumers of Ganoderma. I'm not aware of a single one that's had a serious problem with this virus.
Okay, we have, can Ganoderma improve eye health or vision?
So I'll give two things on that. One, in terms of the diabetic eye, there's actually a study directly on the diabetic eye. When you look at cataracts, cataracts are accelerated aging of the lens, which is due to oxidation. Ganoderma has over 100 documented antioxidants and is anti-aging. And I have patients with testimonials. I haven't seen the medical study yet on macular degeneration, but I've had patients who have arrested macular degeneration. And I will say on a comprehensive program, when I put people on a program, I don't ever give them just one thing. I give them the complete nutrition pyramid, but they have arrested macular degeneration. So Ganoderma was a part of that protocol.
Okay, and I have another question. How would you know if the atopic dermatitis is autoimmune related or not?
Well, you know, it's certainly immune related, whether it's auto or not. There would probably require a biopsy or possibly some level of antibody testing. The skin is the largest excretory organ or detoxification organ in the body. We have plenty of people that have had very epic immune responses and skin responses. By the way, the word Ganoderma literally means bright and shiny skin. So whenever I do a consult with patients, I always tell them we want to answer, 4 questions, including what's causing the problem. If it's autoimmune, we would do the 4 immune modulators. If it's not autoimmune, we still want to do allergy modification or modulation, because the term atopic dermatitis literally has a built-in definition of allergy within it. So the 4 universal nutrients that I mentioned, vitamin D3, Ganoderma, Perilicid, and DHEA, all have wonderful immune and allergy modulating activity. So the protocol would be similar. Certainly with the autoimmune, we'd want to seal and heal the gut as a early strategy. Ganoderma is also good for that. Any other questions?
The last one I have here is, can OG help with twitching?
It
Wasn't
has
any more
in many
specifics.
cases. So, in fact, I have a mom of a young twin that I just did a consult with, and his twitches stopped in a week. They did literally 24-hour brain monitoring. That's an advancement in science. They put this kid on brain EEGs and literally had a monitor and followed his brain activity for 24 hours. His twitches were so bad, they thought for sure he was having seizures. Very, very fortunately, the brain EEG didn't show seizures, but we have Karen Timer. I can see her on my screen. And Karen, do you have any maybe family experience of someone who had twitches that maybe doesn't have twitches anymore?
Yes. Hi, Dr. Bob. Thank you. Yeah, my nephew, this is how I actually started to believe in our products, because my nephew, who is autistic, when he was 11, had extreme facial twitches. And I was kind of playing around a little bit, and I asked him to take one of the capsules of the mycelium, and he took one, and within 20 minutes, he came back to me. He goes, Karen, I feel 75% less twitchy. I don't know where the other 25%, but I couldn't see any twitching on this kid's face whatsoever. And the next day he said to me that he wanted to take more because it made him feel better. So yeah, it's powerful.
Fabulous. Karen, I love that story, and certainly love you, right? You're so good for our world. But what I tell people is that a twitch is a nerve spasm, and physiologically it's similar to a muscle spasm. Now, a very extreme nerve spasm would be a seizure. And there's medical evidence, medical studies that show that Ganoderma can even stop seizure activity. And we have case studies where people have done that. So how does it do it? Well, one, it modulates the inflammatory process. Inflammation is one thing that can set up the brain for twitching, for seizures. Stress can also set up the brain for seizures, hyperactivity, anxiety. Ganoderma buffers the stress. It also helps to stabilize the membrane of the neuron by providing complete nutrition and by being very, very alkalizing. So, when you start looking at what we can do, and the beautiful thing about twitches in children, It's often hard to get kids to take a nutrition protocol, but I have never found it a challenge with any kid that I've seen to get them to consume one of our Ganoderma hot chocolates or one of our Ganoderma shakes. Now, occasionally parents will say, and by the way, I'm the parent that would say this too, well, I don't want my kids having any sugar. Well, there's such a mega dose of Ganoderma in it that my diabetics can take our Ganoderma hot chocolate and have less of a blood sugar rise than they would have with broccoli and chicken. But here's what I tell people. Don't take my word for it. Put your body to the test. See what you see. I see Diane on the screen, and I'll quote her because I think she said it first. People lie, but bodies don't. And when you put good stuff in the body, your body's going to reward you. It's going to give you a better mood. It's going to give you more energy. It's going to give you deeper sleep. It's going to give you less pain. It's going to put you more on purpose and connected with this wonderful world. So again, bodies don't lie. So put it to the test. Any other questions?
Dr. Bob, hi, it's Katrina. I have a question for you. You spoke about this before, but I'd like you just to repeat the information. I have a customer that is a frontline worker in a prison, and they have to wear full gown masks and whatnot. And they have, they only have breaks at scheduled times. So their question was regarding, first of all, perspiration and body odor, and how can Ganoderma help that? And the second one was, how can it help the bladder? Perhaps prevent bladder leakage or whatnot.
Well, let's address both of those, and we'll start with the second one first, because we literally had someone who had she referred to it as a lifetime of bladder incontinence resolved with Ganoderma. So there's a muscle of the bladder which is called the detrusor muscle, and there's a very powerful regulator of that, which is nitric oxide. And then, believe it or not, the neurotransmitter of the detrusor muscle or bladder control is acetylcholine. So there's medical studies that Ganoderma is really good for acetylcholine, which is what makes it good for memory and makes it anti-Alzheimer's in the medical literature. So that could increase the control of that detrusor muscle, and the involuntary trigger of nitric oxide. Ganoderma is a very, very powerful modulator of nitric oxide. Now, when we start looking at body odor, I want to be gentle about how I say this. The reality is that everybody has their own unique scent. And generally speaking, when you're healthy and clean, that scent is not offensive, right? Unless you're a complete and total mismatch with somebody. We actually know from an evolutionary standpoint, if someone smells good to you, that being a mate, a potential mate, you have very complementary genetics for reproduction. And that is proven. So you'll see animals smelling one another. Well, we humans are animals too. But notice the qualifier that I put on there. If you're healthy and clean. Now, if you have bad microbes and it can grow under your underarms or whatever, these can excrete some unfriendly toxins. Let's just put it that way. And so, and sometimes it can come from the inside. So you want to kill the bad bugs on the inside. You want to detoxify the body on the inside. You want to clean the body on the outside. And Ganoderma is good for that as well. So, God bless our frontline workers, whatever system they're working in. We want to keep them healthy and happy.
Good. Thank you very much. I'll pass that on. All right.
I have a bit of a testimonial to sweating and body odor, actually, if you'd like me to just speak on it for 10, 15 seconds.
Go for it.
I actually have a business partner, and he would sweat actually just standing and walking around here, and he goes, I hate smelling myself. It's just actually absolutely disgusting. After one box of black coffee, actually, his perspiration and his body odor just disappeared, and he's now a business partner. So, and I will get that testimonial in the group shortly.
You know what? And I can tell you from other people's experiences, maybe some people weren't aware, this guy could at least smell himself. But other people have said, you know what, my significant other smells better. Hey, that's a great thing. I'll definitely say that that's a great thing.
Hi, Dr. Bob. It's Ariane. Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
I got to turn up my volume. I'm barely hearing you, but keep going.
Okay. Is that better? Thank you so much for your presentation and much appreciated. I just wanted to inquire about angioedema, angioderma, which is non-hereditary, if Ganoderma can help with that.
Well, if it's non-hereditary, then there's a distinct possibility. And so when you look at edema, it's basically fluid retention. You look at angioedema, it's a swelling of the blood vessels, and that's generally a weakening of the tissue. And so these cases can be very severe, and they're literally, sadly, there can be a point of no return. I've seen people with legs the size of tree trunks because the edema is so bad. But we would want to get after it early. And the one thing I always say is, we always want to know what's, the answer to the question, what's causing the problem. Certainly fluid retention from toxicity, from weak kidneys, from liver problems, even bowel issues can increase fluid toxicity. Ganoderma is good for all of those things. It also strengthens the tissue. One thing that can happen with that level of edema is, excessive stasis or standing of fluid. And that makes these people more prone to infections and other challenges. So, Ganoderma being a very powerful anti-infective may be something that just is a long-term, wonderful preventive strategy, whether or not the edema ever resolves.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been 2 years with my mom, and they still haven't figured out what it was. So they've done numerous colonoscopy, they've done multiple tests. They've found out it's not hereditary, but it's 2 years now. But the last 6 months, I started giving her the mycelium. She hasn't had a flare up. So I was wondering if that could be related. That's the only thing I introduced to her was the mycelium. Because she's been consuming the coffees and the teas, but then mycelium is the only thing. So nothing since November. And 2 years, at least once a month, she was having a major flare up with her face. And they still haven't figured out what it was.
I'm glad that that's better, and even from a structural point of view, there are people that are very, very good at lymphatic massage, and that can help facilitate the healing.
Okay, Dr. Bob, we do have one more. If you could speak a little bit on when someone has menopause and they're not losing belly weight or just difficulty losing weight at all, how could the Ganoderma be of use in that respect?
Yeah, I don't want to be too long-winded with this, but what I tell people about menopause quite simply is, and I will tell the story because the story makes sense. I've lectured in Sweden, many years since the mid-1990s, and the Swedish term for ovaries is egg stalkers. And I love that term because it's 100% accurate. So I have a new baby granddaughter, and she's 7 months old. And believe it or not, she already has 1 million eggs in her ovaries. By the time she's 37, she'll be down to 25,000 eggs. By the time she's 52, she'll be down to 0 eggs. And when there's no more eggs, the egg stalkers close shop. So what happens is the ovaries stop producing estrogens and progestins. But female's body is not without the estrogens and progestins. It's actually made through a whole new system. Instead of endocrinology, it's called intracrinology. The cells of the body that need it can make the estrogens and progestins. But they make it from an adrenal molecule, which is called DHEA, which we talked about in this because it's a universal immune modulator. Now, here's the challenge. Most people are overstressed, and there's something that's been termed the cortisol steal. And so when your body is very, very stressed, instead of making DHEA, instead of making progestins, it goes in and it makes cortisol. Cortisol inhibits thyroid by at least 6 different mechanisms, and cortisol is known to promote fat right at the belly. So I can tell you, I have had so many women come into me, and a woman will come in and she just has, hit that menopause time, and she'll show me her tummy and she'll say, I had 5 kids and my entire life I had this wonderful flat tummy. And then just like this, in the last 2 years, I've got this pooch I can't get rid of. Well, we do a stress reset. And the stress reset that I do is with melatonin every waking hour, theanine every waking hour. That's a milligram to 2 milligrams of melatonin, 200 milligrams of theanine, and Ganoderma spores every waking hour. And I have documented lab markers of overall stress resilience in the body and stress burden in the body. And I can't think of a single patient that's done this stress reset protocol that hasn't had a significant change in their stress numbers. And not only significant, but often life-changing, and maybe even in some cases life-saving. Because remember, stress is the enemy of the immune system. Stress triggers depression in the brain. It's not a good time to be depressed or have a bad immune system. Let's put it that way. And in fact, I'm probably at an all-time high at recommending stress resets. So that's the long answer. Reset or stress. Spores every waking hour can work very well along with melatonin and theanine. And let's help her get, you know, every part of her body back to happy. Anything else?
Yeah, I'm just reading. We have two more. I'm just trying to get in here. If I can say this right. Sclerodermia.
Yeah, that's
I said that right.
of autoimmune.
Okay,
and so this was the big part of our lecture was about that. Ganoderma, perilla-seed, DHEA, and vitamin D3, all important. You know, I happened to look. A question came through as I was looking. They said, "Are we going to come out with a keto version of our hot chocolate or our mocha or our latte?" And here's what I would encourage you to do. Believe it or not, for some people it is keto. I had a very strict keto patient come in, and what we did is we took her fasting blood sugar. And now we use different units in the US. Her number was like 80. So maybe that's maybe a 4.5 in your Canadian units. And then we gave her a latte, which she absolutely loved. And then 30 minutes later, right on the clock, when she had finished her latte, 30 minutes after that, we measured her sugar. Her sugar was 89, which is, just a micro rise in blood sugar. You could have gotten that rise eating a grape. And so is this keto? And I will tell you, for some people it is. And, if it's not keto for you, well, let's get you healthy enough so that your blood sugar response is better and that it is. You may have to be stricter for a period of time.
Okay. And with that, what Ganoderma would you suggest for someone with that condition right now? Would it be the coffee, the spores? Yeah.
Well, why not all the above? So there's different parts of the mushroom. The regular coffee has Ganoderma lucidum. The king of coffee has Ganoderma spores. The spores are the most powerful. When we're coming out with our brain line, we're actually going to have multiple mushrooms that are proven to help detox, and that's available now with early pre-launch. So lots of good things going on. It
certainly is. Yeah, I'm excited about that one. And one last question, because it appears to be the last one this time for sure. Hot flashes. What product would you suggest would be one of the top ones to help with that? Because I know that your answer will be that Ganoderma will be able to help.
Well, so there's still a little bit of a mystery about what causes these hot flashes. And so we know that they often accompany hormone changes with menopause. And remember that the adrenals are taking over. But when you start stimulating the adrenals, there's a section of the brain called the hypothalamus, which also has temperature regulation. And one of the top theories is that it's overactivation of that adrenal system because of imbalance in hormones and stress. So I would recommend the spores, but overall, what we want to do is balance that person in as many ways as possible. And believe it or not, the stress reset that I mentioned has been powerful for hot flashes. And now we'll go a little off script, but health is the total topic. There's a form of Siberian rhubarb that's in phase 3 clinical trial for hot flashes. It's available through the professional line Metagenics, but that is something that's literally medically proven to dramatically reduce hot flashes. So you add that to what our stress reset protocol, and we've got women literally getting their life back in 7 to 10 days.
Okay, let's take a look here. We have it. Can our black coffee cause thyroid blood test disruption?
Well, I don't even know the basis for that question. Let me process that deeply for a moment. One, when you start looking at coffee, there is evidence that some coffee in some people can cause a cross reactivity with a condition known as Hashimoto's. And so that would have some potential to disrupt the data. Caffeine, by the way, also stimulates a major branch of the immune system. And if that's the branch that's already hyper-responsive in an autoimmune circumstance, that could disrupt it as well. So it wouldn't be our coffee, it would be coffee that would have the potential to do that. But now here's what we know about ours. We can say this. We can't make health claims about almost anything, but we can say that our coffee is healthier. We can legally say that. And so it is. So for some people, could coffee be a disruptor to a thyroid test? There's evidence that it could be. Could ours? Well, I guess by extension, potentially it could be, but the probability would be much lower with ours.
Thank you, Dr. Bob, for being so amazing.
You are very, very welcome. I see one more and then I'll close it out. It says, can it help with varicose veins?
Yes.
So these are damaged veins. Remember that veins, or maybe not remember, learn that veins don't have a muscular supply. So it's actually the muscles of the body that squeeze around the veins to bring the blood back to the heart. And if you don't get up and up and use your legs enough, then you're more prone to varicose veins. And we also know that there's a genetic predisposition to it. So remember, the word is, that it's easier to stay out of trouble than get out of trouble. And so we just want to stay healthy. We want to stay active. We want to stay fit. We want to stay wonderfully nourished and all these other things. So, someone mentioned, I'm looking in the chat about the pain of varicose veins. Now, pain it's proven to help with, because it modulates the inflammatory process by at least 13 proven mechanisms and helps with pain in some of the worst conditions like rheumatoid arthritis and fibromyalgia. So it's a very good pain modulator. So with that said, this will close out this week's Total Wellness Tuesday. But I want to bring on Diane Solano for a second, because she does a fabulous business talk. We found out over time that there's a lot of people that are a lot more interested in the nutrition benefit than the business. So that's what tonight is all about. But if you have questions about the business or want to learn more, Diane will share expertly at what the business can do. Diane, do you want to say any words about that, or are you just good in paradise wherever you are?
I'm actually in my backyard. As a Canadian, we're always enjoying the weather as much as we can. But thank you, Dr. Bob, because 5 years ago, as a practitioner, I had the rug pulled out from underneath me. I became a single mom, didn't know what I was going to do to leverage my practice and to leverage my financial stability. So, if people have questions around this topic, ask the person that invited you to provide you with more detail. But here's what I know. I spent 20 years trying to get people off of regular coffee. Wasn't a fan of it. Yes, there's some health benefits, but truly when you're trying to turn around a body chemistry and trying to alkalize, wasn't a big fan of it. Didn't have much success. I say in my 20 years of practice, maybe 2% of the population actually managed to do it, somewhere in between. When I found out about organo and I realized that with every sip, a person was getting nourished. I mean, we heard on the call tonight, all the medical review studies, testimonials, bodies don't lie. They're so honest. Never in my 20 years of practice have I had so many people stop me in my son's schoolyards, at home. I had to carry product out of the trunk of my car. Never had that with fish oils, never had that with protein powders, never had that with, yes, Metagenic Nutraceuticals, one of the top line nutraceutical companies in the world. So I found that we were actually the Apple of the coffee industry. We actually have a wait list of products. Blow it up in the chat, guys, if you've had somebody wait for products, because we sell out all the time. You can't find this product anywhere else. We're growing very rapidly. We're in 35 countries, 2 more about to be opened. We're coming out with a cognitive line. The company is really forward thinking. And here's the bottom line. People are looking for something. There are a lot of people right now that are searching for an option. So whether it's getting out of stress, getting out of debt, getting, a retirement package out for yourself, paying for your kids' school, I don't know. All I know is that people are looking for choices. I just knew that 5 years ago, I wanted something that was risk-free, that didn't require capital. And that's exactly how Organo showed up for me. But what I love is, number one, is the impact we're having and that it's changing lives. Truly. Think about it. People are paying $2 plus for gasoline coffee stations somewhere out there. And with this, every sip you're getting nourished, every sip your brain chemistry is improving, your hormone, your detoxification avenues. I just don't know anything else has had that level of impact for that price point, for that simplicity, and that daily habit. So bottom line is, you got to try the product. The product is absolutely for everyone. The business, only for people that are looking, someone who might be hungry, coachable. But here's what I know, we're growing. We haven't hit critical mass yet. And there is a ton of demand, not enough distribution partnership. So connect with the person that invited you and ask questions so we can get you closer with the answers to see if it's a fit for you. Thank you, Dr. Bob.
What time tomorrow? If people wanna...
tomorrow. Yes. So every Wednesday I go through the business presentation about where the company's going. What is it about? What direction is it going to? Who are the founders? Like people need to know the research, and those that want to know a little more, we do that every Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So we do 30 minutes. You get an overview of the company. Again, more information, how they compensate for those that are hungry and looking. We're looking for referrals because the demand is so high. We need more partnerships to get that product out there. Thank you, Dr. Bob.
Oh my gosh, thank you always. And I, we're learning as we go. And I realize that, one, I'm going to cover a health topic every Tuesday, but we might have a session, we'll do that for about 20 minutes, and then we'll have Ask the Doctor. So bring your health questions, maybe that would be helpful if we present it that way. And one thing we always want to be careful of, we want to always honor medical privacy, but feel free to ask a question. Hey, I have a friend who's suffering with, right? So, that'll be wonderful. All right. Everybody, enjoy this absolutely epic, beautiful evening. It looks wonderful. The camera I can see in the background, it looks like everybody's enjoying a pleasant, beautiful world. So good night.
Thanks, Dr. Bob.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Diane.
Thank you, Dr.
Bob.
Dr. Bob.
Dr. Bob.
Thank you.
Have a great evening, man.
Thank you, Dr. Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Dr. Bob.